Hello, my name is Hazel Owen, and if you're watching this video at Dean's 2008 My Space, My Place, My Learning Conference, I'm sure you're having a fantastic time. Unfortunately, I've not been able to make it to the conference, hence the virtual presentation that I'm currently doing. I work for Unitec New Zealand in Auckland at the Centre of Teaching and Learning Innovation. I'm an academic advisor in ICT Enhanced Learning and Teaching. Today what I'd like to do is talk about program design that puts the me back into learning experiences and spaces. By that I mean designing programs that have resources and use tools which support a student's journey from the beginning of a program to the end of a program by encouraging interaction with peers, interaction with authentic resources that encourage them to use real-world skills, to think creatively and critically and be imaginative. In other words, empowering the students to become effective members of their community once they've graduated from the program. Obviously this isn't unproblematic. Students come from a particular educational background, they have notions about their own role, about the role of the teacher, about the role of a program, and so on and so forth. They're also influenced by their community, by their family, and by their experiences, their past experiences. So activity theory has proven extremely helpful in the initial stages of program design. So today I'm going to talk extremely briefly about activity theory and also in particular how it helped form a 40-week computer research skills and projects program that was designed specifically for Emirati students at Dubai Men's College in the UAE. It was designed to transition, and it was a long hard journey for the students, their first foundations year and all of the hurdles and expectations that they faced there. And I'd also give you a little bit of an insight into some of the research findings that came from that. So without further ado, let's move on. Students graduating from tertiary education not only need a good grasp of their content discipline and the concepts therein, but also how to apply those concepts. This involves skills such as critical thinking skills and complementary skills such as digital literacy skills, the ability to communicate and to problem solve, project manage, for example. As such, most degree-level programs and the accompanying graduate profiles recognise the importance of academic skills, cognitive and reasoning skills, and also information communication technology skills and cultural awareness. Design of such courses so that they maintain a balance between student-centeredness and achievement of the learning outcomes that are complementary to the discipline requirements is quite demanding. Activity theory can be pretty helpful in this respect. Engström developed from Vygotsky's initial work on sociocultural theory an expanded notion of cultural historical activity theory that is particularly applicable for analysing tool-mediated learning systems. As such, it provides a way of investigating interaction, which is the activity system, and allows significance to be placed on the space and the tools, including language, along with concepts such as rules, division of labour, internalisation, externalisation, the hierarchical structure of an activity, and continuous development. To take a specific example from the Dubai Men's College Foundations activity system, the notion of community. Within that there was the Emirati Foundation Programme learners at Dubai Men's College faculty and support staff and the systems therein, the UAE government, businesses, society and the families of the learners. I'd like to move on now just to tell you a little bit more specifically about Dubai Men's College. The students 70% aged between 17 and 20 years of age. 33% are already working and study part-time. They're all males, all Emiratis, and enter with a reasonable information communication technology level of skills. The students starting foundations at Dubai Men's College tend to be from education background where learning is considered as the transmission of knowledge, and learners are able to ultimately know this representation of reality. They have well-developed memorization and rote learning skills. They're also very used to teacher-centered environments where the pedagogical methodology is largely didactic. As such, their main challenge when they move to Dubai Men's College is to adapt their approach to learning, their way of thinking, and their expectations of themselves and the teachers. Research shows that a high level of support and scaffolding is required to help students make the transition from passive learners to active learners. Activities have to be engaging, they have to have real-world application, the learning environment has to be supportive, and teachers make a transition from being teachers to facilitators. Consequently, the Foundations faculty at Dubai Men's College, using activity theory, designed and implemented research skills and projects, RS&P, that incorporated research, study and critical thinking skills dynamically with the four main foundations courses, which were Arabic, Math, English and Computing. During the RS&P course, students' performance of activities such as projects is scaffolded with a range of cognitive tools. These include things such as learning management systems, calendars, chat, but also rubrics, instructions, and peer support. Now I'd like to show you some examples from the RS&P course itself. First we'll look at the learning management system WebCT, and then go and look at a specific example of projects the students do. Here we're looking at semester 1 and semester 2. Throughout the 40-week semesters, students are helped to foster a number of skills and strategies which are listed here, including time management. Time management is a skill that students are not very good at when they come to us, because in a teacher-centered environment they're very much told what to do and how to do it. So we use the calendar in research skills and projects a lot. The good thing about the calendar is students can click on a specific link such as homework and it will link them back to that particular quiz or piece of work. We also do time management quizzes and activities that highlight students' awareness of what's expected and how to do it. The Research Skills and Projects course was very much a blended course whereby students were in the college doing collaborative group interactions, maybe whole class interactions and social discussions, as well as finding and evaluating resources and using the suite of online tools that I'm just about to show you. As such, there was very much an emphasis on socially shared knowledge. We're just looking here at online dictionaries. Students were encouraged to translate tricky concepts into Arabic, so the online bilingual dictionaries were incredibly useful and very helpful to our students. We also use things, for example, in vocabulary. We'd focus on vocabulary a lot. We'd use things such as concordances. Again, students, totally new to students, we had to use help quite a lot, and we found the step-by-step screenshot videos that, in fact, you're watching here, very, very useful, and students really responded well to them. A further tool that was extremely useful for students and with students was instant messaging. If you can imagine, some students had never been in a classroom with a woman before that wasn't part of their family. So to come up and ask questions was quite a big ask. So instant messaging allowed them to contact teachers to ask questions, to check instructions without actually having to come up face to face. We also use discussion boards quite a lot for brainstorming, for things like writing academic essay and giving peer review and feedback. Alongside tools that encouraged collaboration and interaction, we also used quizzes and tools where students got instant feedback. In particular, we used, for example, quizzes that use multimedia. In the case that we're looking at here, students would have a player in the window and would be able to stop, pause and listen as many times as they wanted, and then check their answers and get instant feedback. We'll just listen to the multimedia now.
Can you tell us something about the educational background that you need to begin a career in banking?
Banking is a professional, and it is a profession that you have to be trained because it involves management of money.
Students were encouraged to take quizzes as many times as they wanted, and sometimes in pairs or threes, and up to as many as 3 times, with the highest score counting towards their course grade. Other things that were used were flash videos that students could access and download onto their laptops. In this case, it's an exam awareness raising and skills type exercise where students work through. Multimedia was a huge success in the Research Skills and Projects course. Students had a lot of problems with referencing. As such, what we did was use things like screen capture to show students not only how to reference, but where to find the information. And we used a tool called Noodlebib, an online referencing tool, which was relatively complex. So again, the videos could be downloaded onto the students' laptops, watched again and again, and kept for reference and using for referencing in the future. We did several videos for referencing websites, for referencing their own images. That we also used a zero tolerance approach to plagiarism, whereby if a student handed in a piece of work that was plagiarized, it was used as an awareness raising exercise. The zero really caught their attention, where me going, no, 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 wouldn't have done. So the students weren't penalised though. It was seen as they needed further skills to avoid plagiarism. As such, we helped them with skills such as paraphrasing, increase their referencing skills, and help them with vocabulary, synonyms, and so on. Also, the weighting of the course was such that in semester 1, students had, the weighting was very low, so students had quite a good chance to still do extremely well in the course overall, and not worry about actually failing in semester 1. Models used in the CRISP course were clear, usually offered in a variety of media, and well staged so that students had a clear idea of the type of artefact required to fulfill learning outcomes. So for example, with presentations, students were given an example of a good presentation done by a student in a previous semester. So now we've had an overview of the CRISP course, I'd like to look at a specific project, the career project. The career project is designed specifically for Emirati students at a vocational college and who will definitely be moving into the workforce. The students do 4 projects over the 40 weeks, and the idea is that the skills are cumulative. The career project is the penultimate project that the students do. We start by focusing on vocabulary. As you can imagine, there's a huge range of vocabulary specific to recruitment, for CVs, and for writing autobiographies and going to interviews, for example. So we start by a very familiar format where students go away, they have a list of vocabulary, they find the meanings, they translate into Arabic. We then in class discuss self-awareness, what is it, why it's important, and think about how it might be used in things like autobiography and in interviews, especially when being questioned. The students then have a bit of fun with a quiz that's actually used in recruitment in HR. It's a flash quiz, and students can take it as many times as they want. It's a bit of fun, and the results can be sent around to friends if students require. But again, it's recycling the vocabulary and practicing reading skills. The next thing that we move on to is EMIRATISATION. EMIRATISATIon is a focus in Dubai to bring more Emiratis into the workforce. It's got a lot of complex concepts and notions around and behind it. So the EMIRATISATIon readings that we put in this case again, hot potatoes, students get a chance to read the vocabulary in use, to produce the vocabulary as part of quiz, and also just to begin to think about the concepts of EMIRATISATIon, which they will then use as part of their assessments, which include the presentation and a website and an. The next step is the podcast and analysis task. Initially, students are helped to identify and prioritise components by listening to a podcast that's linked to an analysis task in WebCT. The podcast is entitled Career Considerations, and it was actually 6 DMC Foundation students who were interviewed on a talkback radio station. After listening to the podcast, students have to identify the reasons given for wanting to work in specific careers and list and prioritise the considerations discussed for choosing a specialisation to study. Students then simultaneously read and listen to information about course options available at Dubai Men's College and related job opportunities following graduation, using a list of key considerations for a hypothetical individual. Their decision-making process is modelled.
The business department seeks students who have good organisational skills and can pay attention to detail. Students should like working with numbers and be able to communicate in English at a high level. Communication Technology or Comtech department seeks students who enjoy working with photography, video and graphics. Students should enjoy working creatively with computers and like working as part of a team. The engineering department seeks students who like building, solving technological problems and enjoy working hands-on. Students should desire to fix and improve things for people using a logical and thinking approach.
As previously mentioned, all 4 of the content skills of foundations are carefully integrated into the projects that students do. So for example, with the maths project, the maths side of the project, students go out and interview people in the workplace and gather data on employees' occupations, skills, training and education. Data is sorted and collated into MS Excel and is then used to answer hypothetical questions about career decisions. Furthermore, as can be seen here, this is a step-by-step video showing students how to collate the information into the Excel sheet ready to include in their career website. The career website in fact forms a sort of an e-portfolio for students to show some of their skills. So this shows not only their maths skills but also their ICT skills, communicating and interviewing and presenting the data that they've collated and looked at. Ramsden argued in 1992 that assessment is about measuring student learning as well as diagnosing specific misunderstandings so that we can help students to learn more effectively. The CRIS course decided in the design to rely rather than on purely standardized tests which focus on skills in isolation, to use an alternative approach, looking at skills that have some value beyond the classroom. The main underpinning idea of this is to provide students with an opportunity to practice and recycle. The assessments for the career project include an in-class writing, 10-minute group presentation and a career website. Instructions and rubrics were given very carefully to students and made available in the learning management system. So the idea was it was discussed as a group. There were activities around the instructions, and then students were able to download the instructions to access as at a later date. So here, for example, 10-minute presentation. Students had the date it was going to be given on, and highlighted aspects such as the fact that everybody in the group must speak. So it was looking very much at group dynamics and participation. The students formed groups of 3 or 4 and then selected a topic from a list that ranged from steps for writing CVs to a career that group members were all interested in. They used a fact sheet along with all the strategies that they learned as part of the career workshops and department presentations to present, to create a PowerPoint and prepare a formal presentation for the rest of their section. Students presented to their own class to avoid too much anxiety. Students were also given a model PowerPoint to access, and what we were trying to do was give students just a notion of what they could include in a PowerPoint and how they might decide to construct it. So, for example, they had to have an introduction, they had to have slides that supported the content of their presentation, made sure that they had a conclusion and some sort of reference list. The other part of the assessment was the career website. Students had to use Macromedia Dreamweaver, which was part of their computing course requirements, and any multimedia software program that they chose to use. Some students were, for example, dab hands at Flash. They then designed and built a career website. Every week for 10 weeks, students, for example, they would write their CV, they'd write their autobiography, they would go and do the career interviews. So it was all cumulative over the 10 weeks, and the information and findings from those activities then formed part of the career website. The students, of course, also had access to a rubric which showed them exactly how they'd been marked. Focus was on aspects such as plagiarism or lack of it. So students were marked by their English teachers for their English, for paraphrasing and summarising, for use of vocabulary. The math teachers would mark the math aspect, the Arabic aspects. The computer research skills and projects teachers would look at aspects such as the design. There was also a little bit of a mark there for imagination and creativity. So students who played safe and used the model intelligently would definitely pass and get a good grade, but students who just pushed out the boat a little further could definitely get an extremely good grade. The rubrics were worded and graded in such a way that students were able to access them and understand them quite easily. We also discussed them in class, in groups and in pairs, and found them a very effective tool. So having had a look at the course overall and the career project specifically, we asked ourselves the questions: does it work? 810 students over 4 years were involved in a study, as well as other stakeholders such as teachers. The students found some of the tasks quite difficult but quite challenging. They also saw the specific focus on meta skills, and also believed that a lot of the skills that they were learning had real world relevance, that they would actually leave college, graduate from college and use the skills, and found this extremely motivational. The tools provided for scaffolding, again, they found very, very effective. Specific policies such as zero tolerance towards plagiarism had a very strong effect. So for example, in this chart, the semester 1 website, 70% of students didn't plagiarize, which was pretty good. But in the semester 2 website, where students had had a chance to look at their zero grades and improve, we had an 85% of students who didn't plagiarize. We also had a very strict late handing in policy, whereby students received a reduction in grades for each day that a piece of work was late. Did students find this a fair way of grading their work? 87% of students agreed that the teachers had graded their work. So moving on to the significance of these findings. Obviously they're very brief. There are limitations of reliability, validity and generalizability. However, we did see the role of the teacher and the students alter. It became much more student-centered. Students were definitely supported in their transition from reliance on the teacher to a much more self-directed learning. They also found the issue of choice a great motivation. We will continue to improve the CRISP course and continue to carry out the research, but in particular we're keen to focus on the learners and how they learn. Many thanks for listening to this video, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me at the address on this slide.